All right. All right. I'll open this up for questions. I'll answer questions for 10 minutes, and then we will begin our feast. All right. All right. I'm going to pause it so that I can get these questions here. The first one, let's see here. Okay, that's better. All right, what's this say? Jesse J has a question. Is it wrong to go to my parents' house on their holiday and not partake in their food and activities? Should I stay away? Now, keep in mind that that give me the one in Corinthians real quick. Keep in mind that you don't want to really cause a disturbance amongst your family. All right, so use wisdom, and if they're inviting you to sit down and meet, it's because they love you. Keep that in mind. All right. Now it depends on the purpose that you're going there for. You understand, and you have to learn. Shalom. Let's get the one about yeah, when you're bid into a feast in Corinthians. Thank you. Just tighten up in here, lawyer, for me here. The water. Got it. One moment, we'll grab it for you. It's 1 Corinthians 10.
1 Corinthians chapter 10.
If any, yeah, it started around, what, the 26th? What'd that say there?
It says, for the earth, matter of fact, I'll start a few verses up, verse 25.
Go ahead. We're at 1 Corinthians 10 and 25 to answer your question on whether or not it's okay for you to feast when you are invited. Read.
Whatsoever is sold in the shambles that eat.
Whatsoever that is sown, that is sold in the shambles. You have to realize, back when we were a people still established in Jerusalem, there was a difference between our market and the Gentiles' market. Not that the animals were different, but the Gentiles would normally sacrifice and pray their animals, even clean animals under our law, to their gods. So when you're eating food in the shambles, that means the Gentiles own the animals, not Hebrews. Read that again.
Whatsoever is sold in the shambles that eat.
That eat.
Asking no questions for conscience sake.
Asking no questions for conscience sake. Why? As long as the food is lawful. You're not eating pork, shrimp, crab, lobster. Read.
For the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Because those animals still belong to the Most High. Just because the Gentiles are praying it to their God doesn't mean you acknowledge that God. You understand? You'll just pray the food to your God. See? Read.
Verse 27. If any of them that believe not.
If any of them that believe not.
Bid you to a feast.
Bid you to a feast. That means your mother and father at this time, they're good people, but they just don't know that they're following pagan traditions. But if they believe not and bid you to a feast, that means they invite you there because they love you. Read.
And ye be disposed to go.
And you be disposed to go. Read.
Whatsoever is set before you.
Whatsoever is set before you, and we know it must be lawful. That means if someone puts some pig before you, you're not going to eat it. Read.
Eat.
Eat it. Read.
Asking no questions for conscience sake.
Asking no questions for conscience sake. Read.
But if any man say unto you, this is offered in sacrifice unto idols.
But if somebody come to you while you're at the table and say, you know this meat, before we put it at your table, we sacrificed it to Satan. or we sacrifice it to this particular God. Read.
Eat not,
Don't touch it.
for his sake that showed it.
For his sake that showed it. Because this is another way the Gentiles gain power over us. You notice when you go into the Chinese stores, there's all types of dragons and all that. And you look in the corner, some of these Chinese stores has an altar in which they put the food to for sacrifice before the store opened. Now they're telling you right out that there's a God that they're praying into the food, and which that influenced the population. So you got to say, no, I'm good. So prayer over food is highly important. So if someone told you that they prayed this food to the gods, then don't deal with it. Now, back in the day, if someone for conscience sake invited me and they were good people, and I came to spread the word, probably not at that venue, but it opened the door for that, I made sure that I wasn't a part of any prayer in which they prayed to a God for the food. Because I understood that the gods they're dealing with are not the gods of the Hebrews. So I just abstained from any levels of prayer amongst them. But if you want to come in later after everything is done and you sit down for conscience sake and no one told you that that food was sacrificed to gods, then you can eat as long as it's lawful. Okay, so that's the answer to that particular question. There's more?
This is a few more. It says, eat not for his sake that showed it.
Eat not for his sake that showed it.
And for conscience sake, for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Go ahead.
Conscience, I say, not thine own, but of the other. For why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? For if I by grace be a partner, why am I evil spoken of for that which I give thanks?
Another example, when you've been telling people for the longest that Christmas is a pagan holy day. Now you go to eat because your parents inviting you, and now someone is there to spy out your liberty to call you a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. They will come to you and say, I thought you don't celebrate Christmas. And then you could be like, well, you know what? You don't understand what I'm here for, but for your sake, I'm not going to eat it. Okay. For your sake, I'm not going to eat it. You understand? So you must use some level of wisdom on how you deal with this. Or come and hug your family and all that. You don't have to eat immediately. Just, have your parents say, I'm not a part of all this. And if you need something to eat, tell them to get you a plate or something, whatever the case is. Every instance is different. But use this scripture, which is 1 Corinthians, as your basis on how you deal with the scenario. I can't right now come up with every scenario that would happen in a particular house. But use 1 Corinthians 10 as your basis. Okay? What's this next here? Was this temple in the Maccabees' time the same as Solomon's temple? No. This was hundreds of years after Solomon's temple. As a matter of fact, this is a rededication to build the same temple that was actually constructed originally under Solomon. Okay? The next one. What should I do if I don't have the true church to follow the holy days? And what to eat? Thank you. Just eat what's lawful and pray over the food. Just eat what's lawful in Leviticus, the 11th chapter. And if you don't have anyone to congregate with right now, that's okay. Just dedicate that day as a Sabbath. Read your scriptures and dedicate that time to the Most High until He bring more together in the union in your specific area. What's the next one? Is that where Christmas light decorations come from? Feast of Dedications. Well, when the Bible tells you in Jeremiah 10 that they deck it with silver and gold, I don't know later when the Christmas lights was instituted. I can't say for sure, but growing up, I very rarely seen a Christmas tree without lights, and I don't know if they are linking that to the dedication of the Feast of Dedications of Lights in Maccabees. I'm not sure. Could we buy when the sun go down to feast or no? Well, usually you have what you need to feast before the sun go down. All right? Usually you do your preparations before the sun goes down. That's the way it's normally done in Scripture. Okay? But if you are a person, you have to understand, if you are a person where you wasn't predisposed to be able to get what you have done, you can exercise some grace. And I'm sure, there is grace, and get your food to eat if you dedicate it to the Most High. For conscience sake, okay? All right, what's next? Do we treat the first day of the feast as a day of rest? Yes, we do. And do you plan a big feast for the first day of the feast? Yes, we're doing a feast sundown tonight. Yes. All right. And we're going to treat the 8th day, which is the last day, as a Sabbath. All right. All right. Let's see here. Thank you, Sister M. Thank you. Let's see here. What is the easy way to tell someone the new moon is not interchangeable? Well, you have to realize in the book of Jubilees, it tell you new moon means new month. And you can't have months of Sabbaths. You can't break down the 12 months in a year with the Sabbaths if you're looking at the moon. It's impossible. Okay, so a beginning of the month do not start with a new moon according to the regular moons, because there's 30-day cycles. Math itself tell you can't follow that. Because if you follow a 30-day increment of moons, and there's 364 days, how could you do that? There's 364 days in a year, and you can only get 354 days. Or what you would call, when you look at the 30-day cycles, you can only get what? 360 days. 354 days. Impossibility. It's 10 days off. Some of the days are 30, some is 31. But when you break them all the way down, you get 354 days.
Some 29.
Excuse me?
Some
29, yeah. Some 29, in correction. But all in all, it comes up 10 days short, like it tell you in the book of Jubilees. So you cannot calculate months mathematically through the moon. Impossibility. So anyone that's saying that you must do it strictly from the moon, ask them to show you how they can get 364 days from following the cycles of the moon. An impossibility. So that's how you answer that. Okay? Let's see. John 8:52 and 58. Is Yeshua stating that before Abraham was the father, Ahia is the father? I ask because we know that Yeshua gave all glory to the Father. When he says before Abraham was, I am, is because Yeshua was the intercessor for the Father, even in the Old Testament, even to Abraham. So when Moses received the law and the Most High gave him the name, before he gave him the law, it was Christ in the burning bush that gave Moses the name. So before Abraham was, I am. So he wasn't speaking as himself. He was speaking in representation of the Most High. Okay? I hope that answers your question there. All right, the next question. Let's see, and then I'll answer those. Would it be unlawful based on the Feast of Dedication to travel and attend a football game next Sunday? Well, it's best to follow the holy days, you understand? And it's best to be under the grace of the Most High. All right? And when I say under the grace of the Most High, you follow what the Most High say follow. We are not one who can give someone a pass based on the Most High's law. So if you're asking me, should you break the Most High's law, you know the answer to that. Okay? Absolutely not. All right? That someone asks, was that 925? Was that December 25th in Maccabees? Yes, it was. But you have to realize it wasn't December 25th according to the Roman calendar.
Right.
Because the Romans, well, the Grecian calendars, because they were actually following similar to how you calculate today, to some degree. All right. At that time, if my recollection is on, and I think back then they were still dealing with months according to the moon from the Babylonians. So it wouldn't equate to the same December 25th or 9-month 25th days, because the Gentiles wasn't following the calendar based on our 364-day cycle. They were following the calendar based on the Gentile cycle. So it wouldn't have fallen on the same day. All right. Let's see. What did Yeshaya mean with purging all meat? And where in the Maccabees can I read about the Israelites following the fashion of the Greeks and having Olympic games? What did Yeshaya mean with purging all meat? You have to give me the precept in which you're speaking. All right, because I have scriptures to show you that Christ was dealing with fish, that Christ came out to he sent the disciples to get the Passover lamb for Passover night. They ate lamb there. You got it there?
It's the one about eating bread with unclean hands.
Oh, that's what's that? The 11th chapter?
The 15th chapter.
Let's get it. Let's see which one they're speaking of. I'm going to answer a few more, then we're going to need to, because we have a feast waiting here, so we're going to have to yield. Give me the scriptures in specific that you're speaking of, so that we can answer that for you, okay? Brother N. And the fashion of the Greeks and having Olympic games, that links to Maccabees, the 4th chapter, right?
That's one I read.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's Maccabees, the 4th chapter. When the Greeks made us put on hats, which how they do with Nike and all that, and began to, deal with those particular types of games. All right. Those are the ways of the Gentiles. All right. Let's see. What is the Dreidel about? Is it Jewish? It doesn't seem to be spoken of in Scripture. I'm not familiar with the Dreidel. Are you familiar with that?
Some of the dreidel on the spinning top they play with.
What those little...
little
that's not in Scripture. We'll be right out. 5 minutes, all right? All right. All right. Someone says, Shalom, was the trumpet, when it talks about blow the trumpet, it's speaking of lift up your voice like a trumpet. And when it says, sing unto the Most High our strength, make a joyful noise unto the God of Jacob, take a psalm and bring them to the timbrel, the pleasant harp and psalmistry, blow up the trumpet in the new moon. It's still speaking of new month. The new moon is synonymous with month. All right. So when you look at that moon, if you go strictly off of the moon, you'll be off because you cannot get 364 days out of following the moon cycle. So when you look in the Hebrew, you'll see that moon is month. So it should say, blow up the trumpet in the new month. Okay? I hope that helps you there. All right? All right, and with that, I'm going to say shalom. May you all have a blessed and holy day, which is the Feast of Dedications this evening, with you brothers and sisters worldwide. And until we are together, all together, make sure you keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on the scriptures, follow the Most High, follow the ways of Yeshua, and pray together. We're in some trying times, and I think I'm going to go into that next Sabbath concerning the signs of the times. All right, that Yeshua told us to be mindful of during his coming. So I can answer one more question, and then I'm going to wish you all Godspeed, and we're off to a feast. If you have 7 days out of the week, why would you choose the Sabbath to move? So the question shouldn't be whether or not one should move on a Sabbath. The question should be, who would choose the Sabbath to move when you got 6 other days? Now, if there's an instance where someone is working all the week and they don't have no other day but to move the Sabbath, then you can exercise some grace. But the question should be, why choose the Sabbath to do something that you can do on the other 6 days? The question should be posed back. Why choose on the Sabbath to do what you can do on the other 6 days? That should be the question. Okay? Can you marry your kid's mother if she's not an Israelite? If she's your kid's mother, you've already married her. We will have a lesson in the Hebrew and Bible Academy tomorrow, yes. The feast is done sundown tomorrow. That's when the holy day is done. All right? And then we're going to have another holy day on the 8th day sundown. All right? With that, I'm going to say shalom. May the Most High be with you. And we will talk with you all soon. Have a